So standing here in the corner of the exhibition and you're looking across the area of the exhibition that features the sculptures, what is it like for you to see this body of work in this show? We have works from the 1950s all the way up until works that literally came from the foundry to this exhibition. So what's it like? What's your point of view when you look at this retrospective?
Oh, I tell you, I cannot believe it that I see all my work for the last nearly 60 years all together. This doesn't happen often because some of these works, as you know, they're coming from other collection or museums. And so to see them all together, it's amazing. I cannot express it. I'm very happy to see them together.
That's interesting. So I wanted to ask you something. You know, when we were talking and doing research on this, we realized that the last solo exhibition that you had in the United States was 39 years ago.
That's right.
In 1976.
That's right.
On the occasion of the U.S. bicentennial at the Great Gallery at NYU. So when we talked a little while ago, you said that you waited 25 years until the doors opened, and 25 years ago is when you emigrated from Iran to Canada. So could you talk a little bit about what it means to be engaged with American cultural life again after this 39-year absence?
Well, I'm very happy to tell you the truth because I have a good background in America. In the early 60s, I was in Minneapolis. I taught there at the College of Minneapolis, College of Art and Design, and I worked there, I exhibited there, and not only there, I exhibited in New York, I exhibited elsewhere. I was very active for a few years, and then, of course, I returned to Iran, but nearly every year I came back to the States either upon invitation or giving lecture or participating in shows. For some activities, I always was connected until the revolution time, and then of course, the door were closed. The relation of the two countries were tarnished, and then I couldn't continue that kind of a life. And then of course, there was a big gap because then we migrated to Canada, and for the last 25 years I've been there, I'm working there. I have come back to United States, but I haven't had any shows during this last 25 years. I have come for maybe giving a lecture or seminar. Once you invited me yourself at NYU, I gave for a talk, or to see important exhibition. And last year, a couple of years ago, I was in New York for Iran Modern Show at Asia Society. But that was about it. And now, to have a major show like this, of course, is a great event and a very memorable event for me.
So you've been in group shows in America, but
That's
not
right.
in solo shows?
No, not solo shows. No.
Since 1976?
That's correct.
So I want to ask you one more question while we're here in this corner of the poets. You are a teacher. You know, you've taught now 2-3 generations of Iranian artists, and that's a very big part of your career. You know, you established the sculpture department at the University of Tehran. You've taught in the United States and in Iran. And this is a museum that's on a university campus. So your work is going to be seen here in a context of students learning about making art, students learning about art as a historical document. Could you talk a little bit about your own teaching and how that relates to your art practice?
Oh, I kind of grew up with teaching. I mean, from when I was very young, I started to teach. And teaching for me is learning too, you know. And I also like to work with the younger generation, with the students. And I mean, it's kind of exchange of ideas, exchange of, thoughts and concepts. And then all the talks and discussion to criticize their works or to correct the works of my student. This is help them both, help them, and also help me to find more, more of the obstacles of the sculpture job, which can be very complicated and opens more doors for the youngsters too. So I'm very happy that this is taking place, in a university campus. I mean, the museum is placed in. Davis Museum is placed in a university campus, and student can come and see this and talk about it, and the instructors can present the works and explain it to them, and techniques and various techniques that I have worked with. I mean, I visited already some of the studios here in Wellesley, and they are well equipped, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be beneficial to them.
So Parviz, we are right now in what Lisa and I call the Heech Garden. And when we were thinking about the curatorial installation plan for this exhibition, we were very mindful that this year is the 50th anniversary of Heech. And we really wanted the centerpiece to be a Heech garden. So there's about 15 Heeches of the large size, and then there's about a dozen smaller Heeches. So could you tell me a little bit, you told me once that Heech came to you in Atelier Koput.
That's correct.
So tell me a little bit about the birth of Heech.
Yes, the birth of Heech was in 1960, end of 64, 65, which I first made the Heech. And it didn't come accidentally, no, absolutely. I wanted to make something that didn't have body and it was different than all other sculptures, and not only mine, from any sculpture. And this occupied my mind for a long time, and it's very difficult when you ask your brain to give you an image of a nothing. I mean, the brain is not capable of doing that. I mean, it says, no, ask me something that I know about it. Don't ask me something I don't know how it is. And so it kept me busy for some time and occupied my mind and so forth. And I knew there should be some way of finding this. And then at last I wrote it down, and I thought, wow, how about the letter, the word itself, you know, composed of these three letters of H and double E and CH anyway. And so I started from there. The first one was kind of a relief on the wall. It was made of neon plastic and some, you know, other material, which I still have it. And then from there, I just sometime later, I made the first three-dimensional Heech, which became like my classical Heech. We see some example of that, even this big piece here, or some of these here. These are, I would call them classic Heech. They are just legible Heech. I mean, standing and the figure of the Heech and recognizable to everyone. But then I made a lot more other ways, Heeches, in other ways, other positions, among them Heech lovers. I mean, you know, then Heech for me became like, you know, like a being, and I thought, you know, Heech cannot stay always alone. I mean, it has to have a mate and has to have a lover, and then I matched them together, put them together, and I thought, my gosh, they look good together, and I made various Heech lovers in various position, in horizontal position, in this position, in other position, and you will see all kind of. So I practically exhausted anything that could be done, I did, and I combined my Heeches with furniture, with chairs and tables, put it in the cage, out of the cage, and on the wall or so forth. And so it occupied my full life for 7 years. And at the end of the 7 years, I couldn't even get away from it, but I decided I have other ideas. What do I do with it? And that's what I moved on.
Well, you know, there is this tradition, and you're a scholar of Islamic art and Iranian folk culture and Iranian tribal culture, so you're well aware that there's always been, we always called in he do cheshmi. You know, we called it the two-eyed H.
That's right.
So it's always had this tradition, even in Persian kind of Islamic culture and writing culture, literary culture, of thinking of the H as a living thing. So you took it to the next level and gave it a 50-year life.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Yes, I mean, the figure of the Hitch, to me, was like a being, you know, even it resembled to me like human being. I mean, no gender. I mean, some people say, is your Hitch female or male? I mean, sometimes it can be a female, it becomes a beloved, and sometimes a male, a lover, and doesn't really matter. But anyway, has a head, has a body. It's a very graceful figure, and then it is its elasticity moves around practically like human body. So it was just the right shape for me. And then all the meaning behind it, don't
Yes,
forget.
let's talk
I mean,
about
there is an ocean of meaning behind it. I mean, not only me, but occupied the mind of the Persian poets from a millennium ago, from 1,000 years ago. I mean, great poets from Khayyam, from Rumi, from Hafiz, and from other poets, all questioning about Hitch. Is there a Hitch, or is a thing true, or is there nothing true, or what? How are they together? I mean, which one is really the one we should more attach to it? You know, Maulana Rumi says, you know, abandon what is nothing but look something. Seek for what is something but that is doesn't look nothing.
So here we are at the Davis Museum at Wellesley College, and one of the sections of the exhibition is this grouping of early works from the 1950s and 60s. And one of my favorites, really one of my most favorite, is Hitch Tablet. I wondered if you could talk about it a little bit.
Yes, this is actually the very first Hitch wall I made. I mean, Hitch Tablet, I call it. And this opened the door to me for my walls. After this, I made many walls. A few of them are here, and you can see them later. But as you see here, it was about the time I wanted to move away from the Hitch. I was making it for 7 years or so, and so I thought, well, I mean, I have made enough of Hitches. I mean, I loved it, but I didn't want to even get away from it. But I thought for a while maybe I should put it aside. So in order to not completely forget the Hitch, I projected on a wall first, and you can see the Iranian can read it. I mean, it's not easy for everyone, but the plain area is the word Hitch, the plain area, and the texture area is the void area, and that is Hitch is trying to get out of the wall. Here is the end of the Hitch. It's trying to get, but it is being locked up by 3 locks, and the locks, of course, I use in those days in most of my sculpture. I mean, then locks has so many meaning and functions in my culture in Iran that I just couldn't do without it. And here also I locked up the Hitch with the wall together, and that is one of the beginning. And I'm so happy to see it after all these years again.
It's so beautiful, and it has a really distinctive minimalist quality. There's an interesting thing that you're doing on the surface with a kind of manipulation and marking.
Yes.
And then the forms here are, sure, they're locks. They're very obviously locks, but they're also somewhat abstracted into these beautiful cylinders.
That's right.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'm also, when I make a sculpture, it's not only, it's not a literature. I like to function as a sculptor. And so it needed, I mean, a plain wall like this to me was not enough. It needed something to strengthen it together. And these simple shapes, cylindrical shapes, which are looking like locks, but they are not functional. But anyway, they are kind of giving not only dimension, giving a bit of sense of motion, sense of motion, because these are movable. And all of this, to me, in those days were kind of making this piece more meaningful.
I think it's a masterpiece. It's one of the first works I saw of yours in person. So I had seen your work in print, and then I saw this, and I thought, oh my.
Where did you see it?
At Iran Modern, at
in
the
New
Asia
York.
Society
Oh, yes,
in New York.
a few years ago.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, right.
So, you know, when you become familiar with someone's work in print, it's one thing. But then you have the dimensionality of the object, and you're just wowed. So here
I'm
it is.
so happy you borrowed this from Gray Art Gallery and you brought it to Davis Museum, because it adds up so much to the exhibition. I mean, all the pieces I sent from Vancouver, I didn't have any earlier works, not many earlier works, and these were, I'm very happy that you brought back some earlier works.
I am too.